Hello, everyone. I'm Yenni. I'm running for Worcester City Council District 5 to advocate for a modern, equitable, and accessible Worcester. Let's move Worcester forward together. I moved here to my husband John's hometown about 7 years ago, and we bought our home in Newton Square, where we're now owner-occupied landlords. A year later, we got married, and I opened my small pet care business, Next Level Pet Care, that I've unfortunately had to close last March due to the pandemic. Throughout my life, I have always been a problem solver. It's a trait that has served me well both professionally as a game developer and as a small business owner. And I believe that it would serve the city well amidst such rapid change to have the experience that I've had in those roles. In college, studying game development and project management, it taught me that every problem has a solution as long as you approach the issue with tenacity and creativity. If you properly analyze the issue, get the best data you can find on the topic, speak to experts in those fields, and then make decisions based on that evidence, things get better. I believe this is the mindset we need right now in the city as we shape the Worcester of the future. As the pandemic's effects will last for years to come, Worcester finds itself at a crossroads. Decisions we make today will impact our community for generations. Our incredible history and tradition have laid the foundation for a new chapter, one where our renaissance and revitalizing economy can lead to a more inclusive, equitable, and just community. There are many opportunities in front of us to prepare for the changes in technology and automation, improve our infrastructure, grow our public transportation, support our schools, and expand access to affordable housing. As your city council member, I'll make sure that all voices are heard and seek out new ideas and fresh perspectives that will guide our decision making to build a Worcester that is modern, efficient, and fair for all. Let's move Worcester forward together. So thank you for joining me here on my third episode. I am very happy to be here. Unfortunately, my guest had to postpone to next week. So next week we'll be having on Julie from Tatnuck Pet, which is a fantastic pet store that I've been frequenting for 6 years since we got Tara. So they're looking forward to chatting with Julie next week at 1 p.m. again. So what's gone on in the city this week? There has been a lot that has gone on. So the city council meeting this past week was a little over 4 hours, and it covered a very wide variety of things. So I'm only going to go over a couple of them. We had the Green Worcester plan get passed. That basically came up from committee for just approval at the city council level. And I like the plan. I feel like it doesn't go far enough, fast enough. I much prefer the one that Sunrise Worcester put out, but small progress is still progress. And I hope that we in the future can improve on the speed and how much we're having happen in terms of making sure that Worcester is doing right by the climate and for our future generations. So the next item that came up that I wanted to talk a little bit extra about was the Community Preservation Act. So the Community Preservation Act is a ballot initiative, not something that the City Council passes, which seemed to confuse a couple of people on the City Council. And I think that it is an important thing for us to pass. It is something that will help us fund historic sites, parks, recreation facilities, and affordable housing. It is a extremely minimal tax that gets placed on property taxes that will enable us to preserve parks, improve our parks, and improve the affordable housing access by creating a fund for it. And the amount of funds that gets pulled from the communities for this has to go directly back into the community for these purposes. So it is particularly important that we have this because the amount of funds that will be earmarked for parks and earmarked for affordable housing will help us make sure that those things actually get funded in a reasonable amount. So I would encourage everybody to check out the Community Preservation Act. It was passed in, I believe, 2015 at a state level to enable cities and towns to pass this at a ballot initiative level to add this this fund to the community. So yeah. So then the next thing that was absolutely major that happened in Worcester this week was the parking changes. So we have a new system that's going in down in the Canal District with kiosks and a pay-by-plate system that has a cell phone app as well as a kiosk where you can pay with card, with cash, with coin, and then you can renew it on your phone if you're not in an area that's time restricted for parking. So the I think that the improvement there is helpful. I think that it is a necessary thing. So I am really hoping that we can pull a little bit more together for that. I think that removing the meters themselves at each location makes sense right now because those meters are getting old. We're having problems fixing them. So I think that there's a improvement that's been made there, but it's also not a future looking thing because with passing the Green Worcester plan, we're going to be encouraging people to have electric vehicles. We don't have many places for people with electric vehicles to plug in. There's a recent study done in California that had found that 20% of people who purchased electric vehicles were they were going back to gas vehicles at about 20%. So the reason that they've found for that is that there's very limited places for people to be able to charge their vehicles. So I'm going to be submitting a petition to the city council for not this coming week, but the next week because of the deadlines are Thursdays. And that petition is going to ask for a report to be made of all of the places that the public can park with EV charging ports, and to add that to the new parkworcester.com website. I think that this will improve people's view of being able to have a plug-in electric vehicle. So that'll help both full electric and plug-in hybrids. So that is that parking information that came to the city council. It was not something specifically for being voted on. It's been forwarded to the traffic and parking subcommittee. So we'll see more information and be able to ask more questions at that next meeting. The update that we got from Councillor Rosen during this discussion and another one, I'm not entirely sure which item this one came in on, but he announced that we have gotten 3 accessible taxis that are wheelchair accessible, 2 used, 1 new, and they'll be running under yellow cab. I think this is a fantastic improvement over not having any ability for there to be on-demand wheelchair accessible transportation. It has been something that we've been missing in the city for at least 2 years now. And I'm really glad that this has progressed, and I look forward to them being out on the road. So there was also an issue that an item that came up from Matt Wally talking about all of the roads and sidewalk issues that we're having where we don't have them getting repaired in a reasonable amount of time because not enough budget's being set aside to it. And it came out that from the city manager that they're going to be looking into utilizing the new federal funds that are coming available to do a major infrastructure update in terms of upgrading our roads, upgrading our sidewalks. There's about 23% of our roads that need total reconstruction, and some of the estimates say that we need about $15 million a year to catch up with how bad our roads have gotten. And I'm sure anyone who's driving around has seen the potholes all over the place. So I really hope that you are. I really hope that we see an actual improvement here. There were comments that came up about the fact that we have some roads and sidewalks that have needed updates and have been on the list for 10, 20 years. There's one item that came up for repair this year that was a sidewalk that was initially voted on by the City Council in 1997. It is preposterous that it has taken us that many years to get to an issue that was voted on in 1997. I think it's a shame, and I really look forward to the new DPW commissioner and what he's going to bring to this issue and to the city. I look forward to potentially meeting with him in the near future, as well as working together with him when I get onto the city council. So the next thing that came up that was of importance level for me was the Magnus Card app from Magnus Mode that Councillor Rose put on the agenda. It is an app that enables people who are neurodiverse, particularly targeted at the autism community, to have more confidence in going out in public and interacting with the community and using the bus systems and knowing how to pay for things and all of that by using story cards within the app to help improve their ability to interact and our ability to interact with them. So there is, I don't know what the heck happened there. Weird. Anyway, so the, yeah, thanks Twitch. So I think that this is going to be a boon to people who are neurodiverse in Worcester. It is a tool that I think could be useful. I have already reached out to a number of the national and state autism communities that I'm involved with due to advocacy on that in years past, both just as somebody who understands the autism community from the perspective of somebody who has a cousin with autism, as well as a nephew who is just turned 6. We're celebrating his birthday tomorrow. So I'm really hopeful that it has positive feedback. I'm looking forward to researching a bit more about it and seeing how it's been implemented in different communities to see how we can implement it here. So if anyone has experience with that app, I would really appreciate you reaching out to me, getting in touch with me, and we can chat about what your town or city's experience with it has been, or if you've used another tool like it. We're definitely, I think that it'll be really helpful for us. So those are the major issues that came up with the city council meeting this week. There was also a school committee meeting that discussed the sexual education plan and making it LGBTQIA+ inclusive. I strongly support this. I appreciate the fact that they are recognizing that we do not have to take one plan all together and utilize it as it exists, that we can piece together different plans that make sense for Worcester. So I am I'm interested in seeing what further comes from that, but it's been a long time coming. It is taking too long to create. We've been talking about this for years now, improving our sexual education education programs and curriculum. So that's something that really needs to be moved forward on faster than it is. People being represented in their sexual education classes, people who are of the LGBTQIA+ community. It has been shown that education in that regard helps make sure that people feel more comfortable with each other being part of that community and interacting with people who are part of that community when you're not part of that community. So teaching people that transgendered isn't the word that you should be using, transgender is. Teaching people that he, she is completely do not use. And I still see people using that locally. And it really hurts to see our community that ostracized by the cis heterosexual world that's here in Worcester. And I think that our students would be greatly benefited by having this expanded education option. So there is that. And then, so we have the meetings for next week. The city council is meeting on Wednesday. The following week, the meeting on Tuesday next week, but the following week is going to be on Wednesday, just so you can mark that ahead on your calendars. And there is a couple of issues that Will Coleman has put on the agenda. One, requesting that the city broadcast their meetings over the radio. It's great. I really look forward to seeing what the city council says about that. It will be a great addition to the transparency that they've added by sharing it over social media. I think that utilizing a tool like I'm using right now, which is Restream, to be able to send it out to multiple platforms would be really beneficial as well. It's really not that hard to set up a Restream account or Streamlabs. There's a whole bunch of different tools for it. They can tie directly into WebEx for streaming in that way. So I think that there's a lot of improvement to be had there. I also think that the city council needs to make sure that when they do share their meetings on social media, that they include the agenda in the description, which they do not currently do. That is an accessibility issue. That is a transparency issue. So there's a lot of improvement that we need to do in that regard. There is also an item to add food pantries up on the website for the city council. I think that this is a difficult task. It sounds easy. It sounds simple. But food pantries have different dates, different hours. They're constantly changing. So this would require a little bit of overhead. I do think that is absolutely something that we should be taking on. And the ability to have this tool on the website will help a lot of people that are facing food insecurity. It is not just people who are low income. It is not just people who are having problems with housing. People of every position in our community are having issues with food insecurity, especially due to the pandemic. So the third thing that Coleman added to the agenda is having a forum be held between 10 of the city council, the 10 of the most largest cities in the state, to communicate with each other about different issues. I think it's a good idea. I don't think that Worcester is the right one to be starting a forum like that. There is a lot that goes into it. I feel like connecting with the Municipal League of Cities would be a lot more beneficial in that regard. They already host things like this fairly regularly. So I think that it might be a little bit too much for the city to be working on right now with everything else that it needs to be focused on. I think trying to get a partnership with another organization or group to host it will be a lot easier and make sure that it runs without having hitches. So the next major thing that I'm sure most people have heard about by now is Becker is closing. There are a lot of buildings and a lot of history in that area. Sarai Rivera has added a number of things to the agenda, items 8, 10, H, I, and J. One of them is to create a historic district in that area. I really, really hope that that does happen, in part to preserve the old buildings, but also to preserve the field that is currently owned by Becker, to make sure that it doesn't get developed, because it is the site of the first major league no-hitter. It was pitched by Lee Richmond in 1880 for the Worcester Worcesters, or the Worcester Ruby Legs, as they were also called, against the Cleveland Blues. He also had a number of other firsts. We had a major league team for 2 years, 3 years, 3 years. So being able to preserve that history and enable people to come and see it and visit it as part of all of the other history sites that we need to emphasize. There's a draw that has to some communities of people like myself who would love to go on tours of the city, going to various historic sites. So I think that would be an important thing to preserve. It is also a field that would be, if the city were to take ownership of it, be able to be utilized as athletic fields. I think that the city is always in need of more athletic fields. We could turn one of those into a turf field instead of putting a turf field at Duffy. And there's a lot less of an ecological impact because it's not impacting wetlands. It's not on top of a peat bog. So the Duffy Field issue aside, I think that Becker leaving is also going to create a vacuum in that part of the city. It's not going to be quickly refilled. There's going to be a lot of places that are empty and needing tenants, needing new owners. There's a lot of sales that are going to be happening. And I'm really glad that Sarai Rivera is asking for an update on the status of working towards meetings with the stakeholders, community organizations, public-private partnerships before any decisions made regarding the Becker College property. And I really hope that the community is able to support that area and ensure that that area stays safe while there's so much that is empty. Tends to create problems in an area when areas are empty like that. So I really I look forward to that meeting happening. So the crap, where'd my notes go? There we go. So the next issue was related to the police department's body cameras. The state has some pending action related to body cameras, and the method that the city plans to use, I think, is insufficient. I think that the review and storage and analysis and the equipment all might be changed by what the state ends up deciding. And having to redo a lot of that, which we very well could, will cost a lot of extra money. I think that we need to hold off a little bit longer until the state has more information available to us on what they're going to be requiring before we go ahead and buy all of the major equipment and implement all of these policies and procedures, instead of having to redo a lot of it. So that was 10K and 10L. 10M is also about the police department. It requests a update. King has requested all of these. King requests an update on a report that was requested back in August about the WPD's field interrogation and observation data that should have had a 2019 report given to the city council. and future years on a yearly basis and be available online on the city's website. I really hope that this happens sooner rather than later on the city's new-ish data portal. It's opendata.worcester.gov, and that's going to, if you check that site out, there's a lot of information already up on there with police history, fire history, the various departments and all of the tech information that they've gathered, things like death and birth records. It's all available on that website, as well as surveys and studies that the city has done, such as the Parks Master Plan hearings and things like that. So that's the major points that I wanted to pull out from next week's City Council meeting. There's also a meeting for the Human Rights Commission on Monday at 6 p.m. They'll be having a conversation with the Worcester Police Department if that is an issue that matters to you to check out. So I also am going to give you a little bit of a tour of the city's website, given that I have a little bit of extra time. So there we go. All right, so if you want to get to the meetings for the City Council, for anyone else, you can go to Government and Agendas and Minutes, or to the municipal calendar to get to when the various meetings are. So via the municipal calendar, you've got a couple of different views that you can take. I prefer the month view, just it lists it out a little bit nicer. So next week's meetings, there's a whole bunch of them, and I really hope you check out their agendas. So if we were to go to, say, the Conservation Commission meeting, click on View Agenda, and it will give you the agenda, the ability to access them, as well as all of the various things on there. And then going back to here, if we go to the City Council meeting, the agenda additionally has attachments. These attachments go to a microfiche. I'm just looking for something that might actually have attachments. Just click through a couple of them. Yeah, so that one still has. All right. So let's see, this one has 17 pages. It is graphics. They're not text selectable. This is extremely difficult for most screen readers to be able to pick up. Next to impossible for some, especially when it continues to go back and forth between different size pages. So this went down again, that went down, then it back up again. It, I think, is based on scans of the documents. I think that it is an interesting choice, and I look forward to the city moving on from it. There are a couple of different things that should be coming down the pipe from the technology and website side of things, creating a portal specifically for the City Council that will have easier ability to access all of this information in one place. So if I were going to go through the agenda and minutes option, there we go. You can see that this is nested pretty deep. Thankfully is available via that initial drop down. So you can also get to the meeting calendar from here, and current and upcoming agendas allows you to see all of the upcoming ones that have been published. And then there's a list of pending items for the various committees, so you can see what's on deck for their potential next meetings. You can also view the previous meeting recordings. These are not captioned, so that is an additional improvement that should be made. And you can hit play on here, you can share it. There's no way to download it, so then there's the boards and commissions one, standing committees, all in here, an archive. And then you can also search the agendas. So if you have a meeting that you're looking for, you can just type it in instead of having to hunt and find it in the menus. So there is that. Yeah, so I am looking forward to next week when I'll have a guest on. I'll have Julie from Tatnuck Pet. They just moved their location from Park Ave back to Tatnuck Square on Pleasant Street. So I hope you'll check out their renovated location after the fire that happened. They had to move to a different area, and now they're back again. I'm really glad to see them back in that space. So I hope you all have a wonderful afternoon. I am going to be hosting my open meet and greet hours from 2 to 4 p.m. I'm going to take a little bit of a break to just chow down on some lunch, and I hope I'll see you all there. The link to join that is in the chat. You can also find it on my website, on Facebook. I'm also on Twitter and streaming this also on Twitch and YouTube. You can see the previous 2 episodes on YouTube and on Facebook. And I hope to see you all next week. Have a great week.